the best University of Technology in Nigeria. My lords, spiritual and temporal, members of the academic community, great Rotarians, ladies and gentlemen, you are all welcome to 186th inaugural lecture of this great university titled The Nigerian Unprotected, Protected Areas, Forest Conservation and Assessment, The Conditia Sine Qua, to be delivered by Ajibola, Adekunle, Professor of Forest Inventory and Ecology. In line with the tradition of our university, this inaugural lecture will be presided over by our Vice Chancellor, the very first female Vice Chancellor of this institution, Professor Adekunle, Fellow Academy of Science, Madam Vice Chancellor. We also have other principal officers of the university in our midst. Professor Timothy Amos is the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Development is Professor Sunday Samuel Oluyamo. We also like to welcome our registrar, Mr. Charles Olusegun Adeleye. Mr. Alasuko Peter Oshaduka is the bursar of the university, while Dr. Robert Akiade Awoyemi is the librarian. We also have the acting provost, College of Health Sciences, Professor Biodun Olagunji. Our deans are led by the chairman committee of deans, who is also a member of our governing council, and Dean School of Computing, Professor Boniface Kayode Ayoshi. Professor Lamode Thomas Adebayo is the Dean School of Agriculture and Agricultural Technology. Representing the Dean School of Basic Medical Sciences is Professor Olufunmilola Omoya. Professor Christopher Oluwakunmi Akindele is the Dean School of Infrastructure, Minerals and Manufacturing Engineering. Professor Adekunle Oladipo Melody is the Dean School of Electrical Systems Engineering. We also like to welcome and recognize Professor Yodeji Oluleye, Dean School of Health and Mineral Sciences. The Dean School of Environmental Technology is represented by Professor Olufemi Folorunso Kayode. And we have the Dean School of Logistics and Innovation Technology, Professor Olayemi Olaseyinde Oke. Professor Mukta Olawale Olatunbode is the Dean School of Life Sciences, while Dr. Ayodeji Sunday Afolabi is representing the Dean School of Physical Sciences. Professor Oluwayo Bello Olusoji is the Dean School of Postgraduate Studies, while Professor David Olarewaju Oke is the Dean Student Affairs. I also like to once again welcome the inaugural lecturer of today, Professor Victor Ajibola Jimo, Professor of Science, Engineering and Technology. and congregation, eminent scholars and friends of the university, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you with great delight to the 186th inaugural lecture of the Federal University of Technology at Adekunle. I warmly welcome our spiritual and traditional leaders, top government functionaries, captains of industries, friends of the university, and the entire staff and students of our university. I am delighted to welcome the immediate and extended family members, friends and well-wishers of the inaugural lecture. I felicitate Professor Victor Ajibola Adekunle on this academic milestone. May I at this juncture request the inaugural lecturer to please rise while I present the citation. Professor Ajibola, please. Victor Ajibola Adekunle was born on the 2nd of August 1965 in Owo government area of Ondo State. He attended Methodist High School for his O-level certificate in 1983. Thereafter proceeded to Federal School of Forestry, Jos, where he obtained ordinary national diploma in forestry in 1986. He proceeded to Federal University of Technology at Adekunle, where he obtained B.Ed. in 1992. He attended the University of Ibadan and obtained an MSc Forest Resources Management in 1995 and PhD from FUTA in 1992. Victor Ajibola Adekunle joined the services of the Federal University of Technology as assistant lecturer in 1997 in the Department of Forestry and Wood Technology, School of Agri and Agri-Technology, and was appointed professor in the same department in the year 2013. He has supervised over 100 undergraduate projects, 22 master's dissertations, and 6 PhD theses. He has authored and co-authored over 113 research journal articles in the research journals, and he has presented papers at conferences both within and outside Nigeria. Professor Victor Ajibola Adekunle is a council and executive member of Forestry Association of Nigeria, and he serves as editor of Nigerian Journal of Forestry. He has had years of experience both in lectureship and management positions in the university since joining the system. Outside of the university, Professor Adekunle is co-team leader, environmental database and ecological sensitivity mapping of Ondo State for Ondo State government. He is a member, Central Coordinating Team of the International Friendship League Adekunle chapter, and he is the incumbent Vice President of the International League of our Professors. He is happily married, and the union is blessed with children. Natural forest resources play very significant roles in the physical and socio-economic well-being of humans. The natural forests provide us clean air and water, regulate climate, serve as a source of food and medicine, supply timber, provide biodiversity, generate employment, and serve as a key source of renewable energy. The lecture of today is expected to discuss the challenge of more sustainable forest management in Nigeria and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have before us this day a distinguished scholar to present the 186th inaugural lecture of the university titled The Nigerian Unprotected Protected Areas, Forest Conservation and Assessment, The Conditia Sine Qua. Please join me in welcoming Prof. Ajibola Adekunle.
The Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Development, the Registrar, other principal officers of the university, the Provost College of Sciences, Deans and Directors, heads of departments and youths, distinguished members of the University Senate, Israel analysts, my Lord Spiritual and Temporal, distinguished professors and academic colleagues, distinguished guests of and friends of the university, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, great Nigerian. It is a great honor to present the 186th inaugural lecture of the Federal University of Technology Abuja, Nigeria on this 28th of October 2025. I give all glory to God for the gift of life and the privilege to deliver this inaugural lecture. 12 years and 27 days.
Effective May 2021, required to possess a qualification different from what was stipulated in the old scheme of service to enable them to progress along their career paths. The Appointment and Promotions Committee is requested to note that 1. With the old scheme of service of
to study forest engineering instead of forest engineering. My teacher there, so you want to study the person? My elder brother, now a retired professor of forestry, had already paved the way in the field for me. Today, man has destroyed the pure and beautiful forest God entrusted to me to protect and manage. The consequences of destroying natural ecosystems are now getting too grave to bear by the destroyers themselves. It is now the case of that parasite that thinks it is having a dog when the real sense it is the one committing suicide. With the permission of the Vice Chancellor, I stand before you to present the 186th inaugural lecture of this university, my alma mater, titled The Nigerian Unprotected Protected Areas, Forest Conservation and Assessment, The Conditia Sine Qua. This lecture is the 9th from the Department of Forestry and Wildlife Technology, and the 2nd in the Forest Forestry and Environmental Unit. For easy comprehension, I have decided to make the lecture simple and the web of technical jargon and verbiage. At the end of today's lecture, we all become advocates of forest conservation, which is the only Conditia Sine Qua non, a scholastic phrase to the ongoing massive utilization of this bequeathed natural ecosystem. The word conservation in this title was purposely selected because of its significance to forest resources management. In English lessons and structure, it is a term that best fits this forestry discourse. According to USDA 2022, conservation is protection, preservation, management, or restoration of natural environment and the ecological community that inhabit them. It includes individuals and sustainable use of natural resources. A forest is a land area exceeding 0.5 hectares with trees over 5 meters tall and canopy cover about 10%, excluding agricultural and urban area, natural forest and urban entity, forest reserves, and the free area. The dawn of forest conservation in Nigeria. Adekunle and Ali 2020, Adekunle and Ali 2028, Adekunle et al. 2010A, Adekunle et al. 2010B. Forest conservation in Nigeria evolved through 3 phases. Reservation, 1899 and 1930. Exploitation, 1930 and 1960. And development, 1960 to date. The first phase began in 1899 by Mr. Thompson, a British forest officer from India, who established forest reserves, mainly for genesis of legal activities in Nigerian protected areas. But Nigeria were practicing conservation through several groups, Igbo, Black Forest, Igbo, and King Forest. These traditional forests were protected by traditional laws, taboos, and religious beliefs. Apart from 1995 and April 2005, the protected area. Protected area are legally recognized space for nature conservation, biodiversity conservation, and for ecosystem services. Adekunle et al. 2013b, Adekunle et al. 2014a, Adekunle et al. 2025. Madam Vice Chancellor, I will focus on the first category of protected areas represented by strict nature reserve, forest reserves, biospheric reserve, biodiversity forest, and community forests. These represented major institute conservation methods. Presently, only one SNR, aka Queen's Forest, remains active as others have likely been encroached or totally degraded. For example, Edapie in the state was allocated to Constitution by Governor Ecology's administration, and the whole forest was cleared fair at once. Table 1, that's the list of conservation areas in Nigeria. Table 2, that's the list of sizes of those conservation areas. But as Vice Chancellor, it is dismaying to report that the only permanent sample plot, PS29, in Ondo State, has also been completely encroached and destroyed by others. And attempt by a legal filler to remove the last mentioned human species from Central Nigeria from this PSP at about 3 a.m. was alerted by the State Forest Regional Task Force in September 2024. It had commenced the felling of this tree before it was caught and arrested. Page 1. Access to all PAs are restricted to tourism, education, research, and trading. Forest reserve. Forest reserves are the most prominent PAs legally presented for sustainable exploitation and biodiversity conservation. Nigeria has about 1,160 forest reserves, covering about 1,065 square kilometers. They are only PAs where logging is permitted in a sustainable manner. As a result, many of these reserves now exist only on paper. They have been converted to farms, plantation, or residential area. Why the protected area is protected? But as Vice Chancellor, the forest is vital to both the poor and the rich. It is absolutely essential for human survival globally. Over 600 million Africans and 50 million Indians depend directly on forests for livelihood, while in Nigeria, the over 80% relies solely on forest resources. The rate of dependence on forests will continue to rise due to population increase and global economic meltdown. Adekunle 2001. The religious aspect of protected area. The religious importance of forests dates back to migration. The Bible records that vegetation was created on the 3rd day and man was created on the 6th day. Genesis chapter 1 verse 3. Showing that God intended that humans depend on forests for survival and livelihood. The Bible foretold the indispensable rules of forests in human life. Ezekiel chapter 47 verse 12 states that trees and earth are given to provide food and healing for man. In Christianity, 2 of the 3 gifts presented to Jesus by the wise men when he was born were forest products, frankincense from the wood of Boswellia to Orifera, and leaf from the wood of Ophora Mera. Jesus was crucified on a wooden cross, page 2. Though the specific use of the construction of the cross is yet to be identified, and a crown of thorns woven from Zyphus spinatrix was placed on his head, symbolizing the spiritual significance of forests in man's salvation. The major religions in Nigeria have always depended on forests for the creation of worship materials. For instance, the early Muslim Tesla were made from the seeds of Ananetis Exotica, and the Catholic rosaries from the seeds of Zagros Devocatrix. Certain trees features like Conditia Sine Qua, Adasonia Vegetata Inclusive, the Buddha Levis Zeba Petamia, Dracenia Mani, Dioscaros, the sheep, the Ibibu of Blanco, and Ficus the Busa. I watch it or conserved as abode of spirit, reflecting cultural and religious protection. Cutting them is deadly, so they are literally left wherever they are found. This is a conservation in principle. At least, a stand of ficus videosa is a must in every temple in India. The wood of some trees are also believed to be the abode of both people and both spirits. Specifically, Adekunle Bawa or Igos is believed to be the abode of the Adekunle or Mangi's spirit children. A poet allowed in one of his poems on Adekunle that they live in the wood of a particular tree species. Part of the poem says, coming and going in several seasons, that's Adekunle. Do not stay on the Bawa tree, that's Adekunle. Follow where you please your kingdom spirit. If enough is not enough for you, Black 2011. A Yoruba saying once said, tí a kò bá tètè pa ẹ̀kọ́ ìlókò tí ó bá dàgbà tán, a gba ẹ̀kọ́. If an local tree, that's Conditia Sine Qua, is not tamed early, it requires a daily sacrifice later, showing its sacred status, but reflecting and the conservation practices. Another Yoruba saying states, ọmọdé kú ìlókò tán, ó bojú ẹ̀yìn, ọmọ pé kì í ṣe ọjọ́ tí a bá bojú wéré ló ń parí. Meaning, a child looks back, immediately after a certain local tree, Conditia says, without knowing that this tree species will not retaliate that very day. But which day is it going to retaliate? This taboo was put in place to prevent children from cutting and distressing economic animals species with their peaceful exuberance. However, the socio-cultural and micro aspect of protected areas, the need for primordial levels in are used in the installation of kings and confinement of distant territories in Yoruba land, as seen in the installation of Prof. Ajibola as Olúbàdàn of Ibadan, plate 4. During drums from traditional festival, cultural and social purposes are made from tropical herbal species, as well from Cordia millennia. Herbal species are used to make aesthetic coffins from area, reflecting their cultural importance in funerals. Adekunle 2011a, plate 5, shows a corpse displayed in a coffin where it is resting in peace and forever. And places is a casket on display for sale to the next candidate on the road. In addition, certain species have been discovered to have magical and mysterious power. Typical in this category are Okubaka arbreda, Egela, and or dead tree, Pyrotophyllum americanum, and Garcia Cura, or Beta Cura. Indigenous legend claim that the root extract of Pyrotophyllum has a magical ability to detect a witch when the suspect is forced to drink it. The logic behind this is simple. Okubaka is a very scarce and mysterious tree species with parasitic and hepatic potential that keep other plants around it. It does not allow any other plant to survive around it. The Yoruba refer to it as Asori, where to denote its domineering and evident tendency. None of its leaves touch the ground. A local people who needs a sleeve will approach the tree and request for the number they need, and the exact number will be brought for them by the tree. There is a Yoruba adage that says, tí Ṣàngó bá ń bá àràbà tí ó sì fa ìlókùn ya, ètì ní ńlá kan. The God of thunder with his power can destroy Sheba by thunder and tear the SSL to pieces, but it cannot do so with Okubaka. This also attests to the mysteriousness of this species. Unfortunately, there are humans who behave like Egela today. Such humans will not allow any person to survive and thrive around them. They are like the little fish of 3 John chapter 1 verse 9. Garcia Cura is another species with specific reference in African traditional religion. It appears in several chapters of Ifa and is also associated with longevity as reported by Gino 2025. The role of forest in the living system is becoming more popular in Africa. Adekunle 2001, Adekunle and Fatade 2007. Specifically, when the stem of Sekuri is masticated and the consolidation is swallowed, it has the ability to treat erectile dilation as a result. It got its local name in Hausa language as Mangani Uratashi. From this singular function, Zylox and Zyloides, Koreata, who also said that the same of the Abu Abu trees in southwest Nigeria that are named after trees are Ibadan, Idirogo, that is under Conditia Sine Qua, Idiarere, Apollonium Confusion, Idiara, Silva Metabula, Idioshi, Adasola Mutata, Idishi, Bafia Sapita, and Idiru, Arabia, Adonesis, to mention but a few. Energy and urban poor rely on wood as the primary fuel for cooking due to limited, erratic, or expensive alternatives like electricity, gas, kerosene, with over 72,000 cubic meters removed annually. Adekunle 1999, Adekunle 1999, FOA 2008, Adekunle 1999. Forest and employment generation. Forestry and forestry activity provide widespread employment, including nursery plantation staff, timber workers, wood industry operators, craftsmen, traditional healers, and food vendors. Adekunle 2011, Adekunle 2013, Adekunle 2013B, Adekunle 2013C. Plate 8 is the quantum of fishes produced from illegal countries in the relics of particular natural forest in the state. And plate 9 shows us in transit from the forest to the sawmill for conversion, protected area, and food security. Food insecurity is widespread in Africa due to poverty, unemployment, and poor agricultural support, with most Nigerians consuming high carbohydrates but little animal protein. This is causing malnutrition and deficiency, especially in children and pregnant women. Adekunle and Baka 2004, Adekunle and Baka 2005, Adekunle 2009, Rockwell 2020, WHO 2003. Indigenous forest foods are rich in protein, vitamins, and minerals. They improve diets and prevent malnutrition in children. Please 10, Adekunle 2009, Adekunle and Oye 2012, Adekunle Echo 2017, Nawal 2022. The flower and fruit are different diets before, allowing year-round availability with more food in dry season. Most of them are now endemic, grow to grow abundance. Adekunle 2002. Despite export ground, about 11 million cubic meters of the equivalent groundings was expected in 1995, and there was no replanting. Adekunle 2010, and Adekunle 2010A, and Adekunle 2010B provided the number, species, and the cubic volume of trees removed from the PAs and areas of states in southwest Nigeria between 2003 and 2005, tables 5 and 6. In southwest Nigeria, logging revenues between 1999 and 2005 were combined and presented by Agenda 2007 as shown in Table 7. Environmental sustainability and climate mitigation rules of trees. The environmental role of trees include air and water purification with other benefits. Adekunle and Adekunle order 12,000 Badamoshi 2024, Olufemi and Adekunle 2000, Adekunle 2007A, Adekunle and Bakari 2004, Adekunle 2009, Figure 1. The contribution of PAs to achieve sustainable development goals cannot be overestimated. Adekunle 1999, Adekunle 2010, Olagoke and Adekunle 2008, scientific training and research laboratory. Protected areas serve as vital laboratory for research and training, supporting practical studies in taxonomy, biosystematics, inventory, and wildlife assessment. The loss of PAs is threatening forestry education, as students may no longer see tropical herbal species in the field. They will just rely on pictures of virtual representations of tree species. Without field laboratories, forest education, research and training will collapse, further reducing the enrollment forestry degree programs nationwide. Adekunle 2008. Why Nigerian protected areas are all protected? But the Vice Chancellor, the Nigerian protected areas are now unprotected, and once an ecosystem is distorted and degraded, to repair them become very difficult, even if and when there is willingness to do so. The bioresources of such an ecosystem and their potential are lost forever, unlike the global average. Ilé ọba tó dúró ẹwà ló fi sí. shows reduction in some countries. Indonesia recorded an 8.4% reduction. Brazil achieved a 50% reduction in 2023. Annual deforestation rates declined from 15.8 million hectares to 10.2 million hectares between 2015 and 2020. Unfortunately, Nigeria is not among the countries with reduced deforestation. Rather, the rate continues to rise with severe encroachment that is threatening conservation efforts. Adekunle and Farrell in 2006. The distinguished the main drivers of deforestation were listed in Adekunle 2013A, Adekunle and B 2006, Lawal, Adekunle, Akinle and Akinle 2024, Adekunle 2025, and Lawal and Adekunle 2025. The consequences of humans in humane actions in the case. There are three major consequences: environmental, ecological, and economical. And the Vice Chancellor, flooding is the first major environmental consequence of the greatly protected areas, as seen in the 1980 Okupa disaster in Ibadan. Deforestation of Okola Hill and Agala Forest in Ibadan for one project triggered flood that displaced over 50,000 people and claimed about 500 lives in Ibadan. President Joe Shogari visited Ibadan on September 7, 1980 after the Okupa flood and explained how bad, when we saw the level of destruction and corpses floating on the floor. The clearing of the forest for building has since increased flood intensity in the urban center. Deforestation is the second environmental consequences. Desert encroachment and sand dune represent a major environmental issue in Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, driven by low rainfall, climatic changes, and unsustainable human activities. The community of Kalitugu in Sokoto State was completely overwhelmed by massive sand deposits, leading to loss of lives, destruction of farmlands and homes, and eventually the settlement of the residents to Sabongari, Hidden Tower, place 12 to 15. Ecological impacts in the second consequence. This includes forest destruction, habitat loss, and destruction of wildlife feeding and migration. Adekunle in 2006, and the displacement and death of numerous wildlife species. Adekunle, and Lawal 2021. The recent decision of Oyo State government to allocate agro parks and garden, the only remedies of dense vegetation with recreation and environmental potential to residential developers is in the wrong direction. The surrounding vegetation of the park witnessed massive deforestation activity in 2024. This is already having severe direct and indirect impacts on the system. If the money and the public demonstration by several environmental activists and non-governmental agents against this decision are ignored and make hope, I only hope this within another suicide attempt was within to extract socio-economic consequences. The deadline of the area result in revenue loss and reduce public income into the collapse of timber and non-timber trees livelihood. Cement from factories like Inaugural and Prof adversely affect tree physiology, seedlings, growth, and community well-being. Omoshiri and Adekunle 2018, Omoshiri and Adekunle 2013, Forest Inventory and Assessment. The definition of forest inventory, Conditia of 2003, defined it as the collection and tabulation of reliable tree information related to assessments, while books and key identified describe it as a survey to determine the volume, location, extent, condition, composition, and structure of forest resources. It involves obtaining data on tree growth, ownership, forest size, and volume to assess the quality and the quantity of forested area. Adekunle 2002, Adekunle and Akinle 2002. Forest inventory practices in Nigeria. The first forest inventory practice in Nigeria was completed in 1930 in about 55 forest reserves across the high forest group. The second and the third inventory were carried out in Ifon, Akure Ofoso, and Uwet urban reserves between 1965 and 1967 respectively. The indicative high forest inventory was completed between 1973 and 1977 In the past, graphical illustration tables were employed for description of standard variables such as total height, mean pH, volume, and base area before the introduction of mathematical formulas and computer software. My modest contribution to the frontier of the Vice Chancellor. My research efforts in the past 27 years across forest ecology, biodiversity conservation, ecosystem services, and inventory. Specifically, I carry out individual research and also in collaboration with my colleagues and my graduate and postgraduate students in this area. Socio-economic impact of forests are protected areas or rural livelihood and our energy consumption. Biomass energy remains essential for rural and urban households. With Adekunle 1999 reporting that family in Ondo State consumed about 4.5 kg of firewood daily from nearby protected areas, showing how forest resources have become scarce and increasingly commercialized. Adekunle 2010 found that many rural households depend solely on forest land for farming, with a large proportion practicing soil farming and benefiting socio-economically from nearby fields in terms of health facilities and livelihood support. Table 8. Medicinal companies. Herbal medicine is increasingly popular due to its affordability, availability, and effectiveness in treating multiple ailments. Adekunle 2011 reported that many rural dwellers rely on herbs for condition untreatable by autonomous medicine, largely because of limited access to modern healthcare. Table 10 is a list of plants species for healthcare in Katana, wildlife sanctuary area. And table 11 is the nutritional properties of some selected foods in tropical rainforest ecosystem of southwest Nigeria. Nutritional properties of wild fruits. Healthy wild food can supplement diets, enhance healthcare, and help reduce food shortages among rural and urban populations. Adekunle 2017 analyzed rural millennia, revealing its nutritional and antioxidant properties. Adekunle 2012 evaluated 8 underutilized wild food species from southwest Nigeria. They are rich in minerals and vitamin C compared to what we have in the exotic species. Evaluation of science techniques for ecological and productive assessment of the forest inventory in protected areas is labor intensive, cost intensive due to poor visibility, dense canopy, and income terrain. To avoid these challenges, 3 sampling techniques: simple random technique, systematic cluster sampling technique, reproject publication were tested. Adekunle 2002, Adekunle and Adekunle 2002. The composition consider mean heat, time, cost, and ease of plot location with simple random sampling performing X. The role of game in support of food production and sustainable agriculture. Subsistence farming relies on fertile land, but shifting population and rapid population growth have depleted available land, pushing farmers into the protected areas for cultivation. Adekunle in 2004 evaluated 2 agroforestry systems in Ondo forests, involving 184 farmers who helped to establish 410 acres of territorial gardens plantations. Table 13 and 14. Physicochemical properties of natural forests in the human producing area of coastal Nigeria. Adekunle and 2008 assessed species abundance, diversity, forest structure in selected protected area and near and few areas in bitumen producing zones of Ondo State to establish baseline ecological data before exploitation. They recorded 92 carbon species across 29 families, highlighting the need for conservation resources to prevent ecosystem degradation and biodiversity loss during bitumen exploitation. Table 15. Tree species, diversity, and abundance. Adekunle 2002, Adekunle 2006 evaluated species diversity and abundance and utilization potential of land, urban, and total forest reserves, 3 of the richest PAs in southwest Nigeria. About 24% of species were discovered to be rare and threatening, while only 16 remain relatively considered dynamics and selected coefficient in our community forest, while Organica and 2016 and Inaugural and 2017 assessed by the sociological and phytoecological characteristics of protected area across southwest Nigeria, compare their status with their adjoining degraded forest. Most farmers, 93%. In southwest Nigeria, we are aware of climate change, identifying major effects of climate change. Okunola, Okay, Adekunle, and Prof 2018, till 20 and 21. Impact of logging and logging activities in conservation of protected areas. Adekunle and Onago in 2010 found that selective logging caused 5 to 7 damage to residual trees during through soil compaction and untargeted plant destruction, recommending reduced impact logging because 2, 3, and 4. Adekunle of 2010 recorded much higher stand density and volume in the environmental forest than log area with significant differences. Ajibola, Adekunle, and Adekunle 2020 lead the reduced stand volume and diversity in the storm forest to logging activity. Table 22. The roles of forest in the management of protected areas. Mathematical models were used to estimate forest growing stocks efficiently by linking tree volume with variables like diameter, rest height, and height, reducing inventory costs and labor. Adekunle 2002, Adekunle 2004, Adekunle 2007b developed and validated non-linear and linear models, including a modified Japanese model of tropical rainforest in southwest Nigeria. Modern parameters were estimated using statistical non-linear least significant mode method with the best validated model presented in table 23 and 24. Madam Vice Chancellor, during my one-year doctoral program at the National Botanical Research Institute, Ecology, I developed species-specific form factor and model for total and artificial well-being called restoration of selected indigenous species in Nigerian Unprotected, which are protected area. The tiger forest models Adekunle 2013 effectively address challenges in stand volume restoration in India. They are simple to apply, require only the of this area, tables 25 and 26, and figure 4, plate 19 and plate 20. Diameter distribution model for the management of place in Nigeria. Using the easy software, 10 diameter models were developed and validated for Cocoa forests across the state in Nigeria by BASI and Adekunle 2022. All the 10 models are confused for the describing the gauge of this field, but they can perform parameter distribution function for the summer to be most flexible. Table 27. Adekunle and 2017 identified the general correct arrangement as the best fitting to a function based on the goodness of field criteria. Table 28. Other way, Adekunle and Adekunle 2024 and Messi, Adekunle and Adekunle 2025 farm work and logistics distribution as the best for the shadow diameter structure in our vascular reserve and Aviv forest reserves respectively. The model of Adekunle in 2006 showed a significant higher logging residue in the geographical people and higher arborescence. To reduce logging waste, we advise the use of skilled fellers, well-maintained tools, proper felling methods, and utilization of credit cover. Table 29. Adekunle and Awa 2021 later used to diversity and density in PSP 29 to soil physicochemical properties. Principal component analysis identify the key soil properties that support tree quality. While compared Adekunle and Odunola 2012 estimated the soil carbon pools as affected by soil degradation is concentrated pH in the field. And Adekunle model relationship between the species diversity and some microbial properties of the tropical rainforest. The finding of a good amount of alcohol in forest soils and the ability of pH to hold carbon. Also, the nutrient pools in soil contribute to technical medicine research and mineral and environmental research in terms of their physicochemical properties were determined and compared with their doing natural forest by Adekunle 2018, Omosheni and Adekunle 2018, and after the importance of residues from timber in enhancing soil fertility and agricultural production, composites made from surplus poultry, data, and market waste improve soil quality, reducing the dependence on chemical fertilizer. Adekunle 2014 assessed farmers area in continuous increase in forest extraction, Omomo, Adekunle, and Akibi 2019 recommended the use of soil seed bank for the generation of distressed yields. These were about the technological challenges in the restoration of the forest, Omomo, Adekunle, 2020, conservation period through genetic assessment. First, Adekunle 2021 determined the amount of anthropogenic activities on the diversity of sexes in Iran in 4 selected years in southwest Nigeria. The result of the 130 section analyzed the 5 chloroplast microcycles matter were presented. Lawa, Adekunle, and Longis in 2023 investigated the genetic variability in the population of Kaya genus, Kaya Manfiola, Kaya aborensis, and Kaya senegalensis in southwest Nigeria using the chloroplast sequential repeats. The 5 molecular markers used in the study are presented in table 36, and most of the easily recognized fragments were found in the grade of 50 to 150 degrees, plate 21. The implication of COVID-19 induced in legal activities in forested land. The extent of the legal activities that took place in the extent of our forest land, although still Nigeria pre-COVID-19 lockdown period 2020, and its effect on people variable, tree diversity and abundance, and some properties were established through the studies of Adekunle 2025 and Lawa and Adekunle 2025. There was a severe nature of this SNR during the lockdown period because the forest officers who have the responsibility of policing the reserves would not carry out their statutory duty during the period. Lawa, Adekunle, and Adekunle 2024. The OTV of all the legally harvested trees was over 43,000 cubic meters, and a total of over 3 million naira owned and poor as IDR in the state government. Lawa, Adekunle 2025 highlighted the consequences of cannabis sativa, median times cultivation on regeneration potential and soil properties of the table 37. But I advise you the conclusion. But I advise on my conclusion of our progress. I hope I have been able to provide some insight into what's called Forest Conservation and Assessment Act. Why Nigerian protected areas are no longer protected. The consequences of the reckless and unsustainable exploitation of protected areas. The reason for the plea for protection and the Conditia Sine Qua to conservation failure. I also hope I have been able to give an account of my conclusion to the sustainability of forest resources. I will therefore conclude with the following relevant quote for our meditation. The Holy Bible, Deuteronomy 20:19. When thou shalt besiege a city a long time in making war against it to take it, thou shalt not destroy the tree. Therefore, by forcing an act against them, for thou wilt escape of them. Genesis 2:9. It is written, and out of the ground make the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant in the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In Quran 16:11, it causes to grow for you, thereby the crops, only palm trees, grapevines, and from all the fruits. Indeed, it is a sign for people who gain God. The Quran and the Sunnah contain instruction for Muslims to preserve the environment, which include abstaining from cutting down trees unnecessarily, even green walls. Madam Vice Chancellor, there are evidences that any person who grows or protected planted trees is going to live longer. Madam Vice Chancellor, and the student of the let me submit by informing the student audience that forest is life. There abounds enough evidence in this. Without the protected areas, the earth will not inspire. The earth will be ugly. The earth will be empty. The earth will be inert. The earth will be tough, unlivable, uninhabitable, like Pluto and Jupiter. Life without the forest will be atrocious, unpleasant, and strong. In view of this, let us join hands in the protection and absolute rules of the protected areas. Let us make the earth a perpetual living entity by preserving this divine gift, the natural forest recommendation. But I advise Chancellor to address deforestation in Nigeria. Several solutions can be implemented. Robbing more to data is not the solution, and forest practices and management, planning and monitoring, regular assessment of the impacts of agriculture and logging of forest conservation, extension services, training and training of farmers and foresters, serve as strict penalty for violators of forest laws, and review of the obsolete forest laws, eradicate of political task force, godfatherism, and non-professionalism in forest administration and forest enforcement, rigorous and aggressive reforestation and forestation and enrichment plans, immediate assessment and inventory of the readies of PAs to know their current status. Regulation of reckless springing up of residential estates by the state government is required. The estate of land that have been cleared, demarcated in cross, and designed as estate and not logo in the city alone is very massive and very equal. It is the same in several other states of the country. Only God knows where these plots of land will be acquired and built. These are portions of land that are supposed to be ordinary public rather than encroaching into the natural forest in search of land for farming. Forest certification and professionalism. The Forest Association of Nigeria has spent much time and fund and suspended on the passage of documents submitted to the National Assembly for the establishment of the Nigerian Institute of Central Foresters, which is yet to see the light of the day after sailing through all the non-democratic processes of the last two National Assemblies, Senate and Legislature. The document finally went to the table of the immediate Vice President for his final assent. Unfortunately, he could not obtain his signature to the document before he left office. As a result, this document has to be completed. View of this, the assistance of all stakeholders are needed for this document to receive the President's assent. The establishment of campus management committee CTMC in Futa as the case in several other universities is long overdue. The committee should be serving the responsibility of management trees and readiness of natural forests on campus and organize regular tree planting program. The recent ecology that took place on campus is contrary to biodiversity conservation and environmental sustainability. The consequences will not be now. It should be stated, however, that adequate measures were put in place by the Vice Chancellor for the replacement of what were removed. But the Vice Chancellor should be appreciated for it. She approved the planting of over 1,000 seedlings in about 15 indigenous tropical outreach trees in the campus. And it was involved in their planting in different locations on campus. There are presently 9 departments in the School of Agriculture and Agricultural Technology. Each department is running unique programs. This way is too big for efficient management. In addition, there are some germane emerging issues in the development process of education and research. But the Vice Chancellor, I agree that to put it all the way to approve the evaluation of the present SAT. Following closely is also the evaluation of the present Department of Forestry and Development, Department of Social and Environmental Forestry, and Department of Forest, Water, and Agriculture Technology. This is proposal by application of SAT and technology departments were on ground before we came. One, bringing the two to future. During your tenure, we have additional failure to the already federal power. I give all the glory and honor to God for planting the word of this academic achievement. I acknowledge my dear father, Mr. Ecology, who left this simple world so early in the last important Conditia Sine Qua in March 1994. Though not educated, his wish that all his children should be educated was achieved in the remaining 10 of us, even after his death. To show for the long way to read the fruits of the day. I thank my mother, Mrs. Professor whose boldness and robust principle saw through the difficult aspect of life. I will forever be grateful to my cousin, Late Johnson Jimo, aka ECB, or the Ubane, a man of thousands, and his wife, late Mrs. Margaret Johnson. You spoiled me with care when I was living with Ondo State, Ondo Pastor, Pastor Jacob Ajibola, among the people, all the good pastors, district pastors, and workers, especially those are not good when I was a full-time group, and those are working with now as rural people in the press outfit. We won't be found wanting when we go to start up on that in Jesus' name. I can't come here for assistance there for me. Thank you, brother and sister, brother and sister, Pastor Amon Moragi, you are all well appreciated. I want to especially thank my spiritual mentor, Professor Lali Passionate of Oye, who is always interested in my spiritual progress. You stood by me and prayed with me during my recent time period, and no doubt my candle. Your daily morning sticker during the period work wonders. Some national and international organizations supported academic and master. They are all also appreciated. The international bodies who supported me are all well appreciated. To my God-given children, Timothy, Adekunle, his wife, and daughter, and my in-law, Mr. Moses Adekunle, thank you very much. Dr. Titus Adekunle, thank you very much. Teresa Adekunle, Extension and Restoration, Dr. Theophilus Adekunle, MBBS, thanks for your understanding. Finally, I want to thank my wonderful wife, Mrs. I've been sharing with the 6th of life for 30 years and 7 days now. Thanks for your diligence and supportive rules all this while. Finally, thanks to my patient audience, distinguished ladies.
The National Secretary Forestry Association of Nigeria. Thank you, ma'am, for coming. We have also Professor Adekunle, the head Social and Environmental Forestry, University of Ibadan. Thank you very much, sir, all the way from the UK. Professor Ajibola is also here with us. It is the Forest Design Institute of Nigeria.
the inaugural lecturer's elder brother, Mrs. Adekunle. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us today. We have Mr. and Mrs. Moses Ajibola, also in-law to the inaugural lecturer. Mr. and Mrs. Ajibola, thank you for being with us. We have the inaugural lecturer's siblings from all the siblings of the inaugural lecturer from Bobo. We thank you for joining us. Today, we have many members of the Deeper Library Church, but I will recognize Pastor Jacob and Shukioku, for those days Pastor Deeper Library Church, and his family. Thank you, sir, and Pat, for joining us. We recognize all the general pastors of Deeper Library Church here present. We recognize all group pastors of Deeper Library Church. We recognize the members of the Forestry Association of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us and identifying this in the Nigeria. We recognize the directors of State Forestry and Maritime Department here in Adekunle and members of Timber Trade Organization. Thank you all for joining us. We also have members of Tree Planters Organization here present, and we have the colleagues of the inaugural lecturer from Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. We also recognize the colleagues of the inaugural lecturer from Forestry Department, University of Ibadan. We have in our midst the children of the inaugural lecturer. We have Mr. Timothy Adekunle and his wife. Please stand for recognition with the idea. Okay, we also have Dr. Titus Adekunle, is the son of the inaugural lecturer. I will have Miss Tessie Adekunle, also daughter of the inaugural lecturer. Thank you for being here. We have Dr. Theophilus Adekunle, the son of the inaugural lecturer. Thank you very much. We have in our midst a woman that the inaugural lecturer described in his own words as a wonderful wife.
after the Vice Chancellor's procession list in the auditorium, footers, staff, and other guests should go to the Hilltop Auditorium for their entertainment. DLBC Group Pastors Auditorium car park to see Mrs. Arobujo. DLBC members to see Mrs. Obushiri at Auditorium car park. Mentees and fans to see Dr. Lawal at Auditorium car park. Presbyterians, and we announce where you go immediately after. Having come to the end of this inaugural lecture, we shall